On Ral Sworgen in the ruin of Oldford, by Samuel Cole, wizard, bookseller, and occasional patron of the Black Gentleman Tavern. There was a time when one might have described Ral Sworgen, with only moderate injustice, as a tavern keeper with ambitions. Such a description would always have been inadequate, but at least it possessed the virtue of simplicity. One could point to the black gentleman, to the brothel rooms, the back tables, the smugglers, the errand boys, the cutthroats, the hired blades, the discreet conversations over watered wine and poor lamp oil, and say, there, that is the man, plain enough, a merchant of the consortium, a criminal of Polish, a rival to Nada Dreher. One more frontier spider in one more rough timber web. That time is gone. Dreher is dead. His sons are dead. The Guildhall is a carcass of scorched beams and broken stone. Whole reaches of Oldford lie smashed, burned, or empty. The granaries are ash, the storehouses broken, the smithy destroyed, and too many of the town's ordinary beating hearts have been torn out and scattered into the mud. The Commonwealth remains. The Guard remains. Hunger remains. Grief remains. And in such an hour a man is seen not as he advertised himself in prosperous days, but as he is when the walls have been breached and the arithmetic of survival grows stern. So let us speak truly of Ral Sworgen as he is now. Not merely Lord of Vice, nor merely criminal entrepreneur, nor even merely that clever bastard behind the bar who always knew more than the mayor. He has become, by attrition and by necessity, one of the load-bearing men of a broken town. This would amuse him, I think. He spent years cultivating the appearance of limited respectability while conducting a far wider business beneath it. Many fools mistook this for hypocrisy. It was not hypocrisy. It was architecture. The Black Gentleman was never just an inn, any more than a fortress is merely a house with thick walls. It was a clearinghouse for rumor, debt, fear, employment, appetite, leverage, and obligation. It was a place where drifters became assets, where lonely men became informants, where mercenaries found patrons, where the desperate discovered prices, and where the practical business of power went on, while more respectable men congratulated themselves on their titles. Sworgen understood before most that Oldford was never truly governed from the Guildhall. The Guildhall was where decisions were announced. Oldford was governed in the spaces where decisions became possible. That difference is the whole matter. Nada Dreher never fully grasped it, or rather, he grasped it only enough to resent it. Dreher possessed the official dignity of command, chairs, ledgers, proclamations, hereditary posture, the solemn creak of merchant authority. Sworgen possessed the less reputable but more durable instruments. Loyalty bought dear, silence bought dearer, men who could move in the dark, women who heard what men said after the third drink, and the peculiar authority that comes from solving problems before the lawful organs of society have finished drafting their objections. In easier years, that made him dangerous. In these years, it makes him indispensable. I do not mean lovable, let no one mistake me there. Ral is not a better man because the world has worsened around him. He is still sharp, still cynical, still incapable of confusing mercy with softness. He reads weakness instantly and uses it if required. He prefers leverage to violence, yes, but not because he is gentle. He prefers leverage because it is cheaper, tidier, and usually more educational. Violence is merely one tool among many in his workshop, and he has never been sentimental about tools. Yet ruin clarifies function. When vampires stalked the streets and sewers, it was not Dreher's line that organized the answer, it was Sworgen's. When the town descended into shadow struggle and panic, he was not found cowering behind merchant seals, but planning expeditions, conferring with hunters, using the underworld as if it were what, in truth, it had always been. An intelligence service with looser morals. Later still, when Oldford's formal leadership had been broken open entirely, It was again Sworgen's organization that stood ready to step into the vacuum, should terms be reached with Commander Zor and Sagar Nell. This is the sort of thing history pretends to dislike, while depending on it absolutely. He has, in short, survived his own archetype. A lesser writer would call him a kingpin and be done with it. But by the end of our shared troubles, he is something more interesting and more difficult. The common crime lord fantasy imagines a man who thrives only so long as civilization is absent. Sworgen is not that. He thrives in tension. He is strongest precisely where law, military force, trade, panic, smuggling, hunger, and local loyalty all overlap and conflict. He is not the enemy of order. He is the custodian of bastard order. The improvised, compromised, frequently unlovely order by which actual towns survive actual catastrophes. This too explains his hatred of imperial encroachment, though one must understand it properly. He opposes the Commonwealth, certainly, but not in the manner of a romantic patriot standing beneath a clean banner. No, his objections are practical, immediate, and all the more serious for that. Empire counts, taxes, inspects, codifies, centralizes, and extracts. It dislikes ambiguity. It dislikes informal power. It dislikes men whose authority cannot be entered neatly into a ledger or subordinated to a distant chain of command. Sworgen has always known that if the Commonwealth had its perfect way, it would shave Oldford down until nothing remained of its frontier character, but a few names on a map and a handful of legal inconveniences. And yet, irony upon irony, now he must bargain in the shadow of those very black dragons. Oldford has been reduced to that ancient and bitter frontier truth. Survival often depends on alliance with powers one despises. I suspect Sworgen hates this more than he lets on. He is a territorial creature. His place is his extension of self. The town's rough freedoms, its underdoors and side passages, its private arrangements and unregistered solutions, these are not merely useful to him. They are the grammar in which he thinks. To see Oldford maimed, occupied, rationed, and held together by emergency politics must wound him more deeply than any public speech would ever admit. And yes, I say wounded deliberately, though not only in the bodily sense. I am told he bears injury from these latter convulsions, and I believe it, for no one at the center of so much violence could pass through untouched. But even had steel never bitten him, the town itself has marked him. Men such as Sworgen bind themselves so thoroughly to a place that damage to one becomes damage to the other. The black gentleman was always more than his business. Oldford itself had become, by slow accretion, his true establishment. A rough house full of noisy fools, bad debts, compromised loyalties, sudden dangers, and stubborn life. Now half the furniture is broken and the roof leaks blood. What sort of man appears under such conditions? Not a hero exactly. Let us not indulge ourselves. Heroes are cleaner in memory than in life, and Sworgen has never once aspired to cleanliness. But he has become something adjacent to the word necessity. That is rarer than heroism, and usually less praised. He remains, so far as I can tell, much what he always was in essence: observant, sardonic, politically cold, difficult to surprise, and almost impossible to shame. But the scale has altered. He is no longer merely the town's unofficial patron of rough talent. He is one of the few remaining civic facts. The old merchant order has collapsed. The public face of wealth has burned. Relief is improvised. Food is scarce. The dead are everywhere in memory, if not in sight. In such a moment, the question ceases to be who has legitimacy in theory. The question becomes who has men, information, stores, nerve, reach, and the authority to make exhausted survivors obey unpleasant instructions for one more day. Sworgen may. That is why he matters. One must also note the strange moral camouflage such times provide. In prosperity, vice is easy to condemn because alternatives abound. In catastrophe, one learns quickly which vices were in fact reserve organs. The smugglers know the hidden routes. The thieves know every undercellar and broken wall. The bawdy house hears what the barracks mutter. The criminal syndicate can distribute coin, message, contraband, medicine, and armed bodies faster than any committee. Respectability sneers at such machinery right up until the hour it needs to borrow it to keep children fed and gates held. Sworgen has built his life in that disreputable margin between what society admits and what it uses. Now the margin has swallowed the page. I think that is why he fascinates so many, and why a naive observer is always in danger of admiring him too much. There is grandeur in competence under pressure. There is seduction in the spectacle of the hard man who can still function while gentler souls break. But one must resist the cheap romance of scoundrel rule. Sworgen is useful because he is ruthless in selected ways, not because ruthlessness is holy. He can protect a town and still remain fully capable of exploiting it. He can bargain for Oldford and bargain also for himself. These motives are not opposites in him. They are braided together so tightly that even he may not fully separate them. Still, I confess, I prefer such braids to the false simplicities of dead men like Dreher. Dreher belonged to that broad and wearisome class of local grandees who believe that office itself confers substance. He had stature, wealth, and formal precedence, and he mistook these for permanence. Sworgen, by contrast, always understood that power is only as real as the next crisis it can endure. In the end, that is the more truthful doctrine. The mayor died, his heirs died, the structure failed. But the networks remained, damaged, bloodied, compromised, but real. Oldford, insofar as it still possesses a future, will likely pass through such surviving networks before it ever returns to law, charter, and peacetime accountancy. So what is Raoul Sworgen now, at the tail end of things? He is the underworld grown civic by catastrophe. He is a crime lord forced upward into statecraft. He is the rough intelligence of Oldford, refusing to die even after the handsome facades have been shattered. He is what remains when frontier politics are boiled down to their hard residue: food, force, knowledge, timing, loyalty, and the willingness to act before dawn. I would not trust him with innocence because he has none. I would not trust him with ideals because he prices everything. But I might trust him with a ruined town, which is a darker and perhaps more meaningful form of confidence. For there are times when civilization is not rebuilt by saints, magistrates, or visionaries. It is rebuilt by maimed survivors, quartermasters, liars, smugglers, priests with dirty hands, soldiers too tired to posture, and one or two dangerous men who know exactly how much ugliness can be tolerated before the whole arrangement falls into the abyss. Raoul Sworgen is one of those men. Oldford may yet perish. The age is foul, the sky unhelpful, and the foundations of the world less secure than I would prefer. But if the town lives long enough to become itself again, scarred, suspicious, hungry, half-haunted, but alive, then some due portion of that continuance will belong not to the dead signatures of merchant princes, but to the bastard endurance of Raoul Sworgen and others of his ignoble utility. There are nobler men, there are kinder men, there are cleaner men and duller ones. But among the living remnants of Oldford, there are very few more suited to this brutal hour. And that, in the last accounting, is the harshest compliment I know how to pay.